It's time to live life through the eyes of fit people so that you too can live a fit life yourself. This is Fit Because. I'm one of your hosts, Jennifer Zerling, but you can call me Jay-Z. I'm a fitness and age management expert, author, speaker, as well as an international health advocate.
And I'm your other host, George Veeder. I'm an entrepreneur, cattle rancher, fitness enthusiast, and a 6-time rodeo champion who has a huge amount of knowledge to share with you in the area of self-improvement.
Oh, he does. Get ready to learn how to bridge the gap between knowing what to do and doing what it takes to become physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and financially fit.
You ready, Jay-Z?
Oh, I'm ready, George.
Let's dive in.
So we're back. This is Jay-Z from Jay-Z Fitness, and I'm here with the awesome George Veeder. And I'm so excited to be back and to talk about this amazing subject that I just don't think there's enough resolution around, and that is stress. A lot of people present stress to me all the time when I do my coaching, and we address it one situation at a time. But there's nothing more awesome than hearing actual scenarios of how people go about their stressful situations and how they resolve it. So I thought it'd be great if you and I pretty much dive into that together as a team to teach our audience how we perceive stress and what we do about it. So George, I'm going to ask you first. Maybe we should first define what stress even is.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Jay-Z. And I'm excited to talk about this subject because we all have stress in our life. And it's not necessarily a goal of anybody's to have a stress-free life, because if you're pushing yourself to accomplish things, you're going to put pressure on yourself, and that's okay. Positive pressure makes us grow.
Right.
The old saying, nothing grows in the comfort zone, is true. So we got to have pressure, but we got to be able to manage pressure so it doesn't become detrimental to our health and our happiness, right? So we're going to talk about tools today that we can utilize to push ourselves forward, propel ourselves towards our big goals in life that get us excited, but don't eat us up with the anxiety that can be associated with stress.
And also to allow us to enjoy the journey of that change. And my favorite expression is life without stress is death. So if we're alive, then we're going to have those pressures that you mentioned. So tell me, George, how do you personally handle stress, and what is stress to you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think if we feel stress or are manifesting stress, it's because we are allowing ourselves to worry about bad case scenarios in our future, right? Everything is uncertain in the future. The saying is, the only thing certain is change. So we know it's going to be different than it is today in the future. And if we worry about what could happen in a negative sense, we create our own stress. So when I find myself stressing, it's because I'm imagining worst case scenarios going forward, what could go wrong instead of what could go right. So when I start feeling that in my body, then I've learned tools to use to shift into a more empowering feeling and state, so that even though I have pressure based on what I'm trying to accomplish, I'm not feeling the negative effect of stress.
Now, it's interesting because a lot of people who feel stress about situations they're not sure of, ironically, they're not happy with their current condition. So why stress about something that might only bring more positivity to their future when their current state is not so positive necessarily?
Yeah, I think in my life, when I've been in low moments, because life is not linear, right? It doesn't go up.
Neither is weight loss. We just talked about that in the car.
Yeah, it's not, right?
Nothing is linear.
Everything goes in waves, right? And in cycles. And so that's just the way life works.
That's right.
And the same thing with our emotional life. So when I've been in low valleys or in the low part of that emotional cycle in my life, whether it was circumstance or whether it was just all mental, I have learned by researching and reading and studying and following coaches things that I can do to pop myself out of that disempowering feeling. For example, I remember early on in my career as a business person, I had a company that was sold while I was working for them. And bottom line is it was very very detrimental to me financially. And I was a young 22-year-old kid making a lot of money at the time. My company was sold. Contracts were changed. I'd done all the wrong things financially. I'd bought the big house and bought the big cars and big lease on an office and all that stuff. So when my compensation radically changed, which wasn't in my control based on the company's movements, all of a sudden I was upside down. And I didn't know how to handle it.
Right.
I had a lot of stress. So I knew that I didn't want to sink into that hole and stay there. So every day I would read something positive and I would project myself in the future. So if you have pain in the present, you can project yourself forward based on a plan. If we're really depressed, it's because we aren't looking at how things are going to get better for us. In other words, we haven't made a plan and we're not moving towards or proactively taking steps towards that new plan. We got to have a plan in front of us. I would sit one time, I actually had the electricity shut off in my house in this big, it was a tri-level, huge home, the first home that I bought. And I'd been living this extravagant lifestyle, and all of a sudden I just was in trouble, and they cut my power off. So I would come home from working all day long. I would hang a flashlight to my ceiling fan over my reading chair, because and I would read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, this 1937 work on success, until I felt more positive, going to sleep in the dark, getting up the next day and swinging the bat again. But I had to get myself empowered or I would just stay there and let it eat me up.
But how do you get that empowerment? Because you, as what I know of you, is the kind of guy that never loses. Okay, even though this is what most might perceive as a losing situation that brought you there, you were able to lift yourself back up by making the appropriate steps or shifts immediately.
Right. Sure.
You didn't wait. So speaking to those people who don't have that catalyst within them like you do, because you're an athlete, you're a rodeo rider, you're an awesome person, you're self-driven. For those people who are not like that, can you talk a little bit about that shift that you had to make within you to do that?
Sure. First of all, I think I always was forward looking. So everybody can make a plan to have a better life than they have now, right? No matter where you are now, you can move forward.
Of course.
And whatever we focus on gets bigger in our life. So if we focus on the darkness of a bad moment, it just consumes us.
Right. So
we need to choose to shift the focus into the future. Okay, so anybody can make a plan of how life is going to look and feel better to them. So that's one thing that I did. And you have to become a student of success. I mean, it's absolutely imperative. So the way that I learned to think, I stole that from other people, from publicly available biographies and success writings that date back 100, 150 years all the way forward. So I became obsessed with that. And then another thing I learned to do was inventory my blessings, because if it's true that whatever we focus on gets bigger in our life, and we're focusing on our problems, so our problems start to mentally consume us and just shut us down.
Yes.
If we focus on what we have as assets or blessings, then they become bigger in our lives and empower us. And we all have inventories that we can make. If all you can do is have ears to listen to us right now, if all you have is eyes that you can see us interact as we discuss this topic,
Just kidding.
See how beautiful Jay-Z is, for example. If we just have eyes, if we live in America, right?
Yeah, we're visual.
We can do whatever we want to do. We can go across state lines and we can have our being and build businesses, and we can do whatever we want to do in this country. If we inventory the blessings that we have, then we start feeling better about our lives, right?
That's right.
Instead of focusing on what we don't have or the things that we're temporarily out of control towards, focus on what we do have control. And let's talk real quickly about how fitness and training factor into that, because in my mind, that was always key to me, because it's something I could control. I couldn't control that first company, the business decisions that they made that were detrimental, to their employees. I had nothing to do with that. I couldn't find a way to manipulate that. But I could control physically how I kept myself together. What I did when I went to the gym.
That's right.
What I put in my mouth. I could get control of my physical self. and then work on my emotional self, and then work on my financial self.
Right.
Please.
And I just wanted to touch upon, people don't realize you're a self-made millionaire. You didn't come from this background where things were handed to you. And you're speaking as an expert on this subject because you physically went through losing the light.
Yeah.
You were in the darkness, no pun intended.
Yeah.
So you rose out of that because you used your resources of trust and belief and faith, which is a whole other topic we're going to talk about in future vodcasts. But you actually did it because you took that first step to do the work. And to your point with the fitness and nutrition, you always have control over that.
Yeah.
So when things are out of your control, how cool is it when you go to the gym and you feel a burn in your muscles or you feel your heart rate going up? A lot of people who are not into fitness, that scares them. It's like, oh my gosh, am I going to die? And I've had people say, my heart's beating quick. Am I having a heart attack? And, it's kind of fun for me to take those types of people on because I say, no, you're feeling within yourself. For the first time, people are waking up. People are dormant until they get to a place of being physically fit and connected to their physical body.
Right.
But man, a lot of people who train aren't necessarily people who read. So, when you take all those variables and put it together and you don't have to dive into 6 days a week like,
Right.
Myself and George, but just baby step your way into feeling what it feels like to be in tune with your body, feeding your body with the right nutrients, because your cells, and we got billions of them, they thrive. And when your cells thrive, your whole being thrives. And that's when you can start making those shifts.
No, absolutely. And also, nutrition and fitness is something that you can actually write down a plan for an accomplishment and start building your self-esteem, right? And start getting yourself out of whatever emotional deficit that you feel you're living in.
That's right.
So if you just put down, okay, tomorrow, if you don't have a gym membership, I'm going to run around the block and I'm going to do 10 push-ups, whatever. Wherever you're at,
something.
You're going to put down something that you're going to accomplish physically. And then write out what you're going to eat tomorrow. If that's important to you, hopefully it is. It should be your health. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything, right?
Yeah.
You can't progress in all the other important areas of your life if your health is shut down, right? Or limited.
Yeah, when you write things down, you could see it.
Right.
So you're able to identify what needs to shift versus thinking about it.
And then specifically, when you've won and now you're starting to build self-esteem. Now you're starting to work your way out of this dark place that we all get to at some times by taking control of things that we can control. The serenity prayer in 12-step meetings.
Right. That's
is,
right.
God, give me the wisdom to accept the things I cannot change and to change the things I can, the wisdom of the difference, right? So that's true in all of our lives. We got to stop focusing on things that we can't change. We got to inventory the things that we can change and then take specific steps to do that.
Right.
And then we will feel empowered and better and we'll start working our way to the better side of the cycle.
Yeah, and this is the most important factor, and I can't stress this enough for people who are also looking to lose weight. And I deal with this all the time. People need to have more patience. Consistency is key. If you stop doing something because, let's just say they do all these things we're talking about for a week or 2 weeks or 2 months or 6 months, and they still feel darkness, it might be a longer journey for that person, and that's okay. So I think that when people quit the road that they're on to be successful at whatever they're looking to do, if they don't see results right away and they're impatient and they put an unrealistic time frame on that, they quit and then they never get out of the darkness and they say, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm supposed to feel this way and be in this scenario and live this dark life. And I come across a lot of people like that, and it's not true. If weight is a struggle or if finances is a struggle or whatever people's struggle is, it's having that consistency of doing what you're saying over and over and over until it's a reality, and just keep your eyes on the prize, whatever that prize might be, and just be patient.
Yeah. It's kind of like, there's a philosophy out there that everything has a certain gestation period, right? Like when we get pregnant with a baby, we know it's about 9 months before we have that baby. No matter how fast we want the baby,
right,
it's about 9 months before we're going to get our baby, right?
You're right.
If it's healthy and things have gone the way that we hope that it's gone. Every goal has a gestation period. And sometimes we want it right now, but it's not realistic to think in terms of right now, and we have to have faith. So we need to use realistic timeframes.
And that's a
absolutely the
great
case.
point you bring up. I think with a lot of things in life, George, that there are no time frames for certain things because some people just don't know how long it's going to take. For example, someone hires me to lose weight. Okay, they have more than 10 pounds to lose, and I'm just throwing it out there. I tell people it might take you 3 to 6 months. No one wants to hear that because I work in an industry where there's a lot of false hope and promises that you can drop your waistline in 10 days if you do this cleanse, or, you can drop all this weight in 2 months if you follow my programs.
Yeah.
And that might be true for some people, but it might not be true for others. And those other people that, are the ones that are struggling and listening to our podcast and vodcast, those are the people that I think we're speaking to because they listen to all these self-help, opportunities. They attend workshops, they read books, and still they're in that darkness. So let me ask you, how do people effectively set a time frame?
That's good. I think, of course, it's going to be different depending on the goal, but typically at 30 days, we think, we pay our bills every month, and so we think in monthly terms, oftentimes financially.
Sure.
That's the way our world works for most people. So I think there's a power in 30-day goal. I mean, you can see change in 30 days. If you are disciplined in a fitness aspect and you're driving towards a specific weight loss goal or a muscle accumulation goal or whatever, in 30 days, you're going to see some change, right?
Yeah.
If you stay focused. And I think the same thing is true with all of our lives, really in anything. In business, realistically, if you're building a business, the first 18 months to 2 years, everything turns to crap, so to speak, right?
And that's a long time.
It is. And so,
yes.
But the people that end up winning just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And again, it's not linear. It'll feel like nothing's happening, and then boom, everything changes. In Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill says that when you finally make it based on whatever your aspiration is and you see real progress, that the success comes in such quantities that you wonder where it was during all those lean years, right? So it goes like
it's that build up, and it's the same thing. I'll use a perfect example. When I first got my first website years ago, I was blogging and writing all these recipes. And I'm like, is anybody even looking at this? And I said, you know what? I'm just going to keep on doing this because one day someone will look at it and it'll, lead to something else. And that's how I position myself in my industry. Yeah. I get approached all the time to be on, different types of shows and interviews. I write for the Huffington Post. I write for Shape Magazine. I write for different venues. But if I didn't write that, then no one knows what my skill set is. Yeah. So even though it took a few years, like now I look back and I'm like, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so it's accumulation. It's a compounding feature, I think about in business, I remember my goals, how they have evolved. I remember thinking how magical it would be at one point in my career to make $10,000 a month. To me, you couldn't spend all that money, right? That's just
right.
Of course, that was years ago. And then that was accomplished. And then it was like, wow, if I ever made
$20,000.
Yeah. What would I do with all that money? And that's evolved into
that's right.
Now I'm blessed with a very strong 7-figure income, and I do I'm able to do what I want to do, financially, kind of without limits.
Right.
And it's a blessing, but it kind of every level goes quicker than the level before. It's kind of like the way that I always pictured it in my mind. It's getting a plane off the ground. To get a plane from sitting still to in the air, it takes a tremendous amount of thrust and fuel. But once you get in the air, it takes a lot less fuel to maintain your altitude.
That's right.
That's the way life is. So you've got to commit a certain amount of time that you've got to just suck it up and go fast, right?
Right.
And you've got to everyday plan what you're going to do the next day. And you've got to pick yourself up when things get bad, and you've got to frame the negative experiences in a way that doesn't disempower you. I know that all sounds like it should be easy, but I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's necessary based on our desire to accomplish something.
It's challenging, but it's doable.
It is. And there are tools we can use. We want to help, right?
That's right. And what's great about you is because you have the resources to record these types of things, like your number one goal is to help and to teach people that you don't need to live in your darkness.
Yeah.
And, going back to the original topic, which is stress, people are stressed out because they feel like they lose control. So I always tell people, if you want to have control the things that you can.
Absolutely.
Number 1 is fitness. Number 2 is nutrition. Number 3, like you said, is having faith. And again, I really want to spend a whole whole episode just on, well, how do you develop that and how do you trust it and how do you embrace it on a daily basis?
Yeah, so on our next vodcast, we're going to handle that subject of faith because everybody tells you need faith. You know, faith is the motivating cause of all action. And optimism is an exercise of faith, right? We believe something good's happening around the corner that we can't see, so we're optimistic.
Right.
Well, how do you get that way? How do you develop faith? Well, there's a process. There's a way to grow faith.
Right.
And,
there is.
And we're going to discuss that process on our next feature that hopefully will be very helpful. It's been a blessing in my life. Hopefully it will be to our listeners.
And you definitely eat and breathe like everything that you're saying, which is why I love doing this with you. So, how do you advise your children on what you are so great at? Because you have 4 kids?
4 kids, 3 girls and a boy.
And you're so close with them. And, being a very successful father who's very active and wins all these awards as, a rodeo rider and your business is doing so well. How do you, when your kids go up to you and say, look, I just can't do it, or I don't even know if they talk that way. I would think that
I'm blessed that my kids have just a great skill set of attitude. And I don't know if any of that had to do with environment growing up or just the way they came to me. But I've told my kids lots of times that if they weren't my kids, I'd still want to be around them because they're just wonderful human beings.
That's beautiful.
So I just respect my kids, and they all have different ambitions. They're not cookie cutter. They're not just drafting up and doing the stuff that I do.
Right.
But they all are very progressive, positive, fun individuals. So hopefully the things that I have taught them through my example, and also we talk about these things as I learn them, and we always have. My kids are grown now, but they've been kind of fostered in that environment, and hopefully that has helped them. But I tell my kids, don't worry about what the negative messages of the world and what they're sending to you. I remember a few years ago, one of my kids had a political science discussion about how our country is getting too socialistic and the tax burden and blah, 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 blah. And we're looking like Europe and taking away opportunity. And, there's a lot of negative messages out there. And I would remind my kids, I go, if you learn how to think in a certain way, you become a citizen of your own nation, right? You can never blame the political environment or the tax structure. Look, you can go to any country in the world and there's winners and losers. There are people that are doing well and people that are struggling in every country in the world. So it's not what somebody is doing to you. It's what you are creating in your own mind through the way that you choose to live that's creating your result. It has nothing to do with tax. When taxes were at their highest rate, people still did well and people still failed. When taxes were at their very lowest, people did great and people still failed, right? In every environment, politically and in every other way that we can categorize, there are people that do well and people that don't. So we have to take that control back. And we have to remember
for ourselves.
There's always opportunity if we learn the tools necessary to progress as individuals. And the information's out there. I'm going to share a lot of it through these podcasts, but it's available. There have been so many great examples of people that have accomplished incredible things, and they have common threads in their lives that they all have used to be successful, and those things have been investigated and proved and reproved. My life has proved many of them.
Right.
To me, that's exciting. It lights me up thinking about it.
Right. To know that people could actually take those commonalities and apply it to their own lives. So it goes back to that, personal belief. But let's, use that as an example. How did she handle that class?
Oh, well, she pushed back. My kids are very independent in the way they think. And so if they listen to something a professor says they don't agree with,
they raise their hands?
They absolutely have no problem.
But isn't that socially unacceptable?
Sometimes it is. But my kids are very independent thinking, thank goodness. And so I feel that's a blessing in our family that they're able to march to the beat of their own drum and not let other people do their thinking for them.
And I have a lot of thoughts around this because, obviously a lot of people that I work with, they're more stressed, not necessarily from what's going on in their lives, but the people that they love a lot, they want to control them and how they deal with the world around them. So what did you do as they were growing up to instill this independent thinking in your children and continue to do as their father?
Well, I think just basically, the old saying is kids can't hear what you're saying because your actions are too loud, right? So I think just they experienced in our family dynamic the growth of these businesses that I have had and the progression, of my rodeo career and everything. And so hopefully they've been able to pick from that. So I can't speak for them individually, but I think that's been empowering for them. Plus, my kids, just as individuals, are just great kids. None of them are negative. They're all positive. They're all caring. They all look outside themselves. They're all service oriented. That's the way they've chosen to live their lives. So I'm grateful. So I can't attribute really their success to me. I hopefully I had something to do with it, but it's just the way that they are.
You just described yourself, so I can't imagine it wasn't from you. And I don't know their mother, but I'm assuming that there was definitely help with that.
There was. And I think also, as a bullet point that we haven't mentioned yet, as far as ways to make us feel empowered and get out of negative feelings of stress, also that concept of service is important. When we're focused just on us, sometimes it can eat us alive. And when we look outside ourselves and we want to help somebody else and we focus our attention on the needs of others, that automatically elevates our attitude. It's a serious win-win.
That's right.
You go help somebody in any unselfish way, and you automatically feel better about yourself.
You get lifted.
So we need to look outside ourselves. We need to inventory our blessings. We need to take control of our schedules and what we're going to do tomorrow and what we can change, off the things that we can't change, and we need to serve people. All those things make us feel better, right?
Right, and that's in my book, is to volunteer and to donate money to charities. So rewarding. And even like if you see someone who's homeless, who wants to have a conversation with you, like they're a human being, just learn about someone's day, maybe be that light for somebody else, because right away, it's going to force you to be the light for yourself.
Absolutely.
So thank you for bringing up that point. So, I think that we could talk about stress all day long. Is there any last pointers that you want to help the audience out with that they can walk away with right now?
I would just say that if you can write this down from this vodcast, that you can write down the things that will help shift your attitude out of the difficult moment that you might be in, or when you find yourself in one of those difficult moments, that you will inventory your blessings in detail, spend some time doing this. You can come up with a lot of them that automatically make you feel better and give you that empowerment of gratitude, because gratitude is the mother of all virtues. When we feel grateful, we're empowered, and we can't feel sorry for ourselves and be grateful at the same time.
No, you can't.
One crowds out the other, right? We need to make sure that we contact friends, right? We need to utilize the support, leverage the support we have.
Right.
Okay? So inventory blessings, contact friends, write down what we want in our future. Right? Make that clear to our minds of where we're going, and focus on where we're going, not the painful moment we're passing through. And remind yourself as you do that the difficult experiences that you're having right now just make it better when you win. They do. In fact, there's the contrast. We can only be as happy as we've been sad, right?
Yeah.
And so every great story has three elements. You have the dream, you have the struggle, and then you have the victory. And it's not complete without those three components altogether.
Right.
So it's okay to struggle. Just don't stay there, right?
Don't allow that. Right. And, to your point, gratitude, just write 3 things down every single day that you're grateful for 30 straight days, and don't allow them to all be the same. So write something different down every single day, and before you know it, you're going to have 90 different things that you're grateful for.
Isn't that awesome?
It's great.
I heard that there's a monk in Santa Barbara, and his practice as a monk is just to find one thing every day that he's grateful for that he had never thought of before.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's
so even one.
That's the key to his spirituality. So I think it's important. So just if you will do those things, you will inventory your blessings. You will write a plan that you can get excited about. And remember, when you're writing plans forward, they've got to be believable. So they can't be so fantastical that your mind can't get around them, right?
Right, achievable.
They've got to stretch you, but they've got to be something you can see yourself doing, right? The old saying is, your goals should excite you a lot and scare you a little, right?
Yeah.
That's the perfect mix of how you should feel when you face your goals, right? And then project yourself into them, and then to be grateful, and then to call your friends and leverage your support.
And tell your friends about what those goals are, because now you have an accountability system.
And do things every day that you can get done and feel a greater sense of pride, achievement, and self-confidence. by an actionable plan that you accomplish every day.
Yes.
We can't control that.
That's correct.
And, God bless us all, and let's just move forward to whatever our best self can look like in the future.
Just be it.
That's it.
This has been Fit Because, hosted by Jennifer Zerling
and George Veeder. Be sure to follow us on social media at Fit Because Show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
And for past episodes, be sure to visit our website at fitbecause.com.
Also, please subscribe to our show on iTunes and be sure to rate and comment. You may always request topics for our subsequent episodes.
And if you love this episode, please share it with someone you love so that we can continue spreading our mission to help people be fit.
Until next time, take care of yourself and know that your future is
Fit Because.